daughter Sally up from Atlanta, and she was good enough to shoot some videos in Gallipolis.
Under duress.
Pardon?
Under duress.
Oh, it wasn't under duress. Okay, Sally, what were you doing in Gallipolis shooting videos?
Well, my mother asked me to go and shoot video of a union rally that was held in Gallipolis last Thursday, the 22nd of September, 2016. And I'm told to talk louder. So this was a union rally. I don't know the initials of the union, but it's the State Employees Union. And there were union members and union higher-ups from all over the state who were there, and definitely the people in Gallipolis. And the reason they came together for the rally was to support the union workers at GDC, or Gallipolis Developmental Center. So Gallipolis Developmental Center, if you don't know already, you will find out today that we have a family member there, my sister Mandy, and some of you may know that in Ohio they are trying to close all of the developmental centers in the state of Ohio. So developmental center used to be called state institutions, and which have been closed for years to mental health, people with mental illness, and now they're currently being used to house severely disabled people. And now, sort of developmentally disabled people, and now they are being closed by Governor Kasich. He has a 10-year plan to close all of the developmental centers in the state. And this is where people...
All of them?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, there's a 10-year plan to close all of them. And 2 of them are currently in the process of being closed, one up near Youngstown, Ohio, and one near Dayton, Ohio. And the goal is to have them closed by July of 2017.
2017.
Yeah. So that's just a few months from now. And so...
What'd they say at the meeting? I mean...
They said the people in Gallipolis were very supportive of GDC. It's one of the primary employers of the area, and it's not so much about the employees, but of the residents. So one might ask, where are these people going to go if they close the developmental centers? Well, the plan is to put them in privatized, for-profit group homes, and where they won't be cared for by trained employees like they are now. So the people in the developmental centers, they're unionized, they're state employees. Many of them have 20 to 30 years of experience caring for this vulnerable population. And these people are being put out of a job, and the people will go and be cared for by basically high school graduates who will have little to no training, will be paid minimum wage, and with very little supervision. So that's one of the things I've learned at the rally the other day, that well, first of all, there's a very high turnover because basically they could go work at Walmart for the same money. A lot of these clients are very demanding attention. I mean, they take a lot of training and they take a lot of care. And for example, very little supervision. I know at one of the group homes, or this for-profit group home in Gallipolis recently, the EMS squad was called because one of the employees had overdosed on street drugs and had to be administered Narcan by other staff members, and then the EMS came and
lovely, lovely.
took him away. So these are the people who are caring for the most vulnerable in our midst. And I'm shocked by this, and very concerned about the well-being of not only my sister, but of all Ohioans who need special care.
Well, I read some of the material and saw that the Olmsted Act, which was responsible for deinstitutionalizing the mental folks on the ridges, has been misinterpreted as far as the developmentally disabled are.
That's actually not true.
What's not true?
Well, it's complicated. So first of all, Reagan closed the mental health centers back in the 80s.
Wasn't that because of the Olmsted Act?
No. And second of all, it's the Olmsted decision, not the Olmsted Act.
Okay.
An act implies, I believe, that it's an act of Congress. And this was a decision by the Supreme Court. So, and this happened in the 90s. So basically, there were two women who lived in Milledgeville, which is the state asylum in Georgia, which is a centralized asylum. They didn't have a lot of places around the state like Ohio does. It had a centralized place with up to 25,000 people there at one point. And it was pretty horrific back in the 1800s and the early 1900s, and it was actually closed for the most part in the late 50s. And they still had some residential areas there. Basically, Georgia would put people there to keep them no matter how disabled they were, because it was cheaper. So these two women who were very high functioning sued the state of Georgia because they wanted to live in an apartment and be able to be taken care of financially like they were in Milledgeville, but they wanted to be able to live out in the community and have the state support them in the community. And I actually went to a lecture given by one of these women. She lectured at the School of Public Health at the university where I work in Atlanta.
University of what?
Where I work, Emory
Oh.
University in Atlanta. So she gave a lecture. She's about as highly functioning as I am on a Monday morning before I've had my coffee. So the Supreme Court said, yes, that makes sense. You shouldn't lock people up in a centralized institution if they can live and function in the community. So they said the state of Georgia has to pay to support these people outside of Milledgeville. So they passed a decision that said that the state of Georgia should do that. And they also said, I think it was Justice Ginsburg, said this should be by no means be interpreted to mean that people should be forced to go out in the community if they don't want to. So it's very, very clearly written in the Supreme Court decision. But governors all over the country are jumping on this as a way, as an excuse to close the state-funded institutions, to bust up the unions, to put these most vulnerable people out on the street, essentially, with very minimal care. And something else I learned at the rally, so the developmental centers would have their own security teams, and now it's the county sheriff that takes care of these people and these homes and comes and gets the workers off the floor when they're overdose on drugs. And so more tax burden is being put on the counties to provide the basic facilities that used to be provided by the state. So that's the goal, I think, of the state, is to cut their budget and to push the costs of this care not only to the private sector but to the county.
So the residents are kind of being siphoned off and away from GDC. Now, GDC is not on the chopping block right now, but
It is ultimately.
it is ultimately.
The goal is to close all the developmental centers in the state of Ohio in the next 10 years.
And replace them by,
These for-profit group care homes run by people with no training.
little training.
Little training, which is disturbing when you consider that the number of developmentally disabled citizens is growing very rapidly.
And with the,
The Zika virus.
pardon?
The Zika virus, is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
The Zika virus.
Uh,
Well, not just Zika, but autism is on the rise. I think the number of children born developmentally disabled has increased, I think, 11% from 2009 to 2016.
wow.
And it's foreseeable to imagine that that would continue, if not increase, in the future. So to dismantle, so Ohio has always had an excellent system for caring for disabled, developmentally disabled people, and it's being dismantled. Just as not only is the population of disabled children being born is increasing, but parents who care for middle-aged people with disabilities, they're growing older and less able to take care of their children, and eventually they will die, and these people will have no one. And not even the state is going to take care of them.
Well, some of them refer to the Olmstead Act as being justification for doing this, but
That's a misnomer. That's not true. This is actually a violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. That was an act passed by Congress. The Olmstead decision is a decision about one state and one case. So the states are using it as an excuse to not pay for this.
well, I know I'm glad that someone is rallying around and speaking out. ATCO, you know, is going to go out of business very soon. And one of the state board people said that, it was quoted in the paper, that closing ATCO in no way justifies Athens not having a workshop. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And putting some of these people that have been sheltered at GDC out in small homes without professional care is dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Well, I'll bet somebody will sue.
I think that that's what it would take. I mean, it would take a lawsuit on the scale of Olmstead to reverse this trend. And the problem is there's no oversight of these people being put out in the community.
Well, some of this is the work of the governor,
Most of it is, yeah.
because the legislature voted
To
to have an
establish,
oversight committee, make sure that the placements were safe for the residents.
yes, there was a advocates group pushed to have a bill passed to establish an oversight committee to oversee the closures of the developmental centers that are the two that are on the chopping block now. And they actually convinced the legislatures that this would be prudent. And so it was passed, and Kasich vetoed that. That was
He vetoed that.
Yes, he did. He didn't want to have any oversight of these people. And the parents feel like their children are being treated like livestock.
Well, I wonder how long Andy can stay.
Well, I don't know.
At least you're knowledgeable about the situation, and
Yeah, it's important to be educated, so I guess the reason I'm coming on Access, because my mother asked me, but also to if anybody's watching who knows somebody who has a developmentally disabled family member, please encourage them to get educated. There are people around who are advocating for this population, and the state should provide services, and there are people who are working to make sure that these people are taken care of. I think the reason it's so important is because this is something that could really happen to any family at any time. If you don't have a family member who's developmentally disabled, you're blessed, and you may think it doesn't apply to you, but your grandchildren may end up that way, or a family member of your church family may be in that situation, people that you care about. No population is immune to this, and so therefore there are people who feel like it's the state's responsibility to care for our most vulnerable, just as we care for children and the elderly, and these people who can't speak for themselves.
Now let's do a little plug for VOR.
Okay.
I'm not sure what that stands for.
Well, it stands for an outmoded word. I don't know why they don't change their name. But it used to be the Voice of Retardation. Now it's just VOR.
And that is a real advocacy group.
Yes.
The local one in the state that says they're an advocacy group or not, they're advocating for the state.
Well, that's kind of a little confusing for people, but if you do know somebody who wants to get more information, the agency is called VOR.net. I guess so. www.vor.net.
Right. Okay, well, thank you so much, Sally.
You're
Sally
welcome, Mom.
Michael Carpenter.
Bye, Athens.
Hey.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Denise Saunders. I've been with Galapagos Developmental Center for 27 years. I'm a therapeutic program director. I've had multiple positions at GDC, but at the moment I am a direct care staff. And what we do is we provide as much independence as possible, and then we fill in those gaps when they need assistance for whatever daily living they need, whether that would be during their meal or toothbrushing. We also provide activities throughout the day. We also support them at their work areas. We do anything and everything and provide every service that our individuals would need.
So why are you here?
I'm here today because I feel my job is a ministry more than it's a job. And this is a lifelong commitment. It's a commitment we take pride in. It's a commitment we want to continue.
Well, if you have 27 years experience, I bet that you are very trained, and I know you talk about helping people brush their teeth and do daily activities, but I also know a lot of these people have a high level of very complex needs.
Yes, ma'am. We do as much support as we possibly can, regardless of diagnosis. We feel that we are able to adapt to their needs instead of forcing them to adapt into our needs. And we want to give them the most quality of life as possible. I'm fluent in American Sign Language, so anyone who would need services with sign language, I used to have a job before I was laid off here a couple years ago in that department. I would provide the training for American Sign Language to help those who either were nonverbal or were deaf and could not hear. We also train staff with communication devices or just the simple basic picture system where they would provide communication so that the person could independently express their wants and desires.
Okay, so some people have a hard time expressing themselves?
Yes, ma'am. Actually, that's probably one of the number one frustrations is expression of their wants or needs, or explaining if they're in a crisis, or there's so many times that someone cannot express if they're ill, if they're not feeling good. And we have to look at body language, eye contact, any type of body behavior that would help express that if they did not have an alternative communication.
Wow, so with that much experience, it just seems like putting them out in the community with somebody who doesn't have very much training might actually be detrimental to them.
It is possible, yes, ma'am. You know, the wonderful thing about, to me, the most wonderful thing about GDC is if you speak to many of the staff, we have a long tenure here. There's very low turnover here. And I think that only adds to a person's positive environment with us as a developmental center.
It almost seems like it's a family.
It is a family.
Yeah. Well, thank you for taking such good care of my sister. And I know she has a second family there.
Yes, she does, and we love her very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So what does that say? Our town, our jobs, our GDC. That's OCSEA.org. What does that stand for?
Ohio Civil Service Employees Association.
Okay.
So that we're the prisons or the county workers. Let's see, mental health workers. What else is in OCSEA? Corrections, I think it's corrections. ODOT.
Okay.
What health and family? Job and family services. Yeah, we're every state employee. Is what we are.
Awesome. So what would you guys like to tell the world of Athens County?
Of Athens County, to take care of your employees because they take care of your people that are in the most need, which is for sure. They take care of the roads. They take care of actually the whole city.
County and state.
I mean, everything. Yeah, we support everybody.
And what's going on about GDC that y'all would like people to know?
They are downsizing us with really no reason. Our families and our individuals don't want to leave, but they are making them feel threatened, like there's nowhere else to go if we shut down, so they make them move out now instead of allowing them to stay where they're more comfortable and taken care of.
Is that true?
That is very true. We've had several of the parents let us know that they have said that they should move them now while there's places available.
But I mean, is what they're telling the families true, do you think?
Oh no. I mean, they've told us that there's going to be no shutdown of our facility.
Okay. But they're telling the families that they're better off.
They're better off to move them now instead of waiting till later when we shut down.
Okay. Okay. What about you, Miss Carla?
She covered it pretty well.
Okay. And y'all, how many years experience do y'all have?
I have 25.
I have 15.
Wow.
Yeah, and we stay until we retire. And we love our people, love our family.
And then if they go out in the community, who's taking care of them?
Anybody off the streets, usually young people that they can hire. You know, we have drug testing. We have a lot of things in place to protect our individuals that we have to go through, a lot of training that we take.
And we work on cameras every day.
Yeah, we have cameras in our facility that watches everything we do.
Okay.
So our people are safe. And out in the community, they're not watched over, they're not drug tested, they pass medications. You know, the employees, just not LPNs necessarily, but anybody, they're letting the staff do that now.
So like untrained kids essentially who graduate from high school?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
The staffing turnover is horrendous.
A lot of our individuals have died already.
Yeah, we've had several die since they've been out in the community for 2 years. We've had numerous die.
What?
Yes.
Wow, that's horrifying.
Yeah, and we've tried to make this public and they just try to cover it up and act like it's not a big deal.
Wow. Okay, well thank you very much. Thanks for being here and supporting our families.
Thank you.
Thanks for what you do every day.
Thanks very much. We love our job.
And action.
Jesse Scott, CSEA, Chapter 2570 DAS. So I'm here to help support.
And your OCSEA, what area did you work in? Or do you work in?
DAS.
What is that?
Department of Administrative Services.
Okay.
Chapter 11, OCSEA.
Now, I'm a nurse. I don't know what administrative services mean. What does that mean?
It's several different departments, procurement, printing, surplus.
Okay, so at GDC.
No.
Okay.
No. We're from Columbus.
Oh, okay. So you basically grease the wheels that run the state.
Well,
Is that right?
kind of. Wait a minute. I think I do, but yeah,
Okay. That's what it sounds like to me.
yeah. There was several other units in our area. DYS, EOD, fleet management is there as well. So
Okay.
there's a lot of different agencies that involved in DAS.
Okay. Sounds like a big department.
It is kind of a big department.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your service and thank you for being here.
Well, you're more than welcome.
I'm a family member,
Okay.
so I'm one of the ones that are like over my dead body. So
Okay.
I'm here to support. It's really like her second family.
Okay.
They just love them and they're so skilled and they can take better care of her than we can.
Okay. Well, anything I can do to help.
Thank you.
I'll try to do it. So.
Thank you, Mr.
That's not a problem. So what happened is, and we've just had this happen to a family member within the last couple of weeks who moved her kid out and they are completely unsatisfied with the care that they're getting. And I begged him when he was talking about moving her, I said, look, take into consideration they are not going to allow you to bring her back if it doesn't work. And he was led to believe that this was okay. If it doesn't, if it doesn't work out, then we will move you back. He's now currently trying to get her back, and the administration is refusing to bring her back. So this is the history of this lying bunch. And we can take this level from the administration right on down. If this, and I really don't care what your politics is. I don't care if you're Republican. I don't care if you're Democrat. I don't care if you're an independent. This has got nothing to do with what's going on with these families. That's right. This administration, if this governor can travel to New Hampshire and he can see a guy in the crowd that he thinks that looks like he's needing a hug. Well, let me tell you something. And he's becoming the more understanding governor. He's beginning to be able to see things like he'd never seen them before while he was running for president. And then he comes back and allows his administration, basically dictates to his administration. It isn't about, what's best. We've got a core group in this administration that's making all the decisions for all state agencies. They know nothing about them. They don't know what the core of those services are. They do not know what they provide. And they can come back to Ohio and he could drag back in here and have his administrators come in here and put the boot on our staff, put them out into the community where Ohio is in no financial crisis, not one bit. And Ryan can explain this much better than I can, as him being the finance chair. But just remember one thing, this has got nothing to do with money. There is no financial crisis at all. This is about a philosophy. So this is what they're doing to our families. So we'll move this because you just as hard today, tomorrow, and the day after, because we can make a difference and we will make a difference in making sure that our families has that facility as an option for their kids to live. Come back in. You want to say anything?
I just like to take a second and just have like a moment of silence, if we could, in honor of Kevin Jolly. We all worked with him for a number of years, and his loss, really hurt a lot of us. So, in honor of Kevin, just a moment of silence.
Thank everybody for coming. And if there's food still over there, we'll try to feed you up a little bit more before you.
County commissioners, our elected officials, have done everything they can do. Ron Smith, the state representative, has done everything he can do. And they've all just run into roadblocks. And I think for the next 30 days, I challenge everyone here, when they go home and when they go to bed at night, to say a prayer for the GDC, not only for the residents, but also for the staff and for the community. I think if you do that, we might see some production from that. So if you all would take that challenge and do it for the next 30 days, every night before you go to bed, say a prayer for these folks. Thank you.
Okay, we all know who I am. All right, I would like to speak on behalf of our residents and our staff. I think we have the best staff. We do the best work. I'm a staff of 24 years. I worked at a group home for 1 year. There's a reason. I worked at a group home for 1 year, and I've worked at GDC for 24. The group home, it was bottom line. That was our main concern. We didn't worry that much about resident care. I don't care what they say. We worried about the numbers. GDC, we worry about the residents. We have their best interests at heart. They're our family. Sometimes we're all they have. We've watched what's been done to them, and it tears us apart. We listen to the families. They want their people there, and there's nothing we can do. Our heart breaks. The governor, he doesn't care. He doesn't listen to us. This isn't about the budget. There's nothing about this that is about budget. They keep putting our people out, and it's sad. It's just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. You know, they talk about integrating them into the community, and it makes me so angry. It makes me so angry. We've always been a part of our community, always. We're at every parade, every single parade. They spend weeks working on floats down at the AT Center with the staff. Our individuals work with the staff to create floats. They're on the floats. I don't see the pop-up overnight group homes with their floats. I don't see Middleton. I don't see Rescare. I see none of them with their floats. Our people are out, like they said, they're at the movies, they're shopping, they're bowling. We do all kinds of things in the community. We have everything there on GDC that our clients need. I don't understand the need for this. I just don't understand the need for it. We've had several people, 3 people as a matter of fact, in the past year that have died since they've moved from our facility. They do not care. They don't have the proper training. Like I said, a lot of us have been there many, many years, 24 years for me. They don't have the training. The turnover in the group homes is unreal. And why? I mean, why would you stay making little to nothing and no benefits? What is the incentive to stay in a group home? That's why we need GDC. We need it for individuals, and we do need our jobs in this region. And I just ask everybody to continue to support us and to continue to do the best jobs you can for individuals. That's the best I can say. Thank you. Thank you all.
Before I have county commissioners come up, I noticed somebody brought up about our workshop. We actually had a lot of our individuals who used to attend the workshop in Banks County. And we were pretty successful in trying to get that back into Gallia County. We were actually paying another entity about $985,000 a year to provide workshop services for about 32 residents. And basically the only thing that workshop provided for those residents was a gymnasium, a chair, a bathroom, and a snack. And that was pretty much the existence of what that workshop actually had. And if there's anything that burns me alive is what they did in taking away our workshop, which our county commissioners and the people of this community established that nonprofit entity to serve those individuals at the Gallipolis Developmental Center. This community stood behind it, our county commissioners did, and there's many business people in this town who came in and set this nonprofit up so that our individuals would have a productive workshop to go to, something that they could do they could earn money. They could utilize that earnings to go out and spend it in the community, whether it was to go to the fair or whatever. Our individuals had a very productive workshop. And just to lay out what happened to this is something that did come about money. The reason that we lost this workshop. We had ex-employees who are retired employees who are now running that nonprofit board. They provided $0 for our staff to pay to take care of those individuals and provide workshop activities for them. Zero. It cost them not 1 penny. So what they did, they kept telling our superintendent up here that, you know, we're not going to be able to provide those services for the individual because we just can't afford to. And, you know, I mean, it inflames me about what happened to this. And the reason they couldn't pay our individuals, and the reason that they couldn't no longer allow them to have that workshop is it because of friends and families who this had them working there in jobs that our individuals should be doing, like mowing down here at our school systems, providing workshop services at our roadside rest. They were more interested in providing services for their own being and their own families over the residents of our facility.
Amen. Yes.
Now we want to talk about what money is. It was $303,000 that this contract that's now in Wellston, Ohio, to provide services for our individuals, that's how much money that nonprofit entity is making for 15 individuals. $303,000. Now you tell me who's that to benefit? That's to benefit the pockets of those people. I'll back off this just a little bit. Sally's already got me the hook on me. But, you know, I mean, this is personal to me. I spent 31 years of my life in that facility, and I'll be doggone if I'll let them take our families down the road and put them in a ditch somewhere just so that they can profit on their own benefit. Harold, I'm gonna let the county commissioners come up.
Well, thank you, Monty. I'm Harold Montgomery, President of the Gallia County Board of Commissioners. I'll keep my sign up here. It's hard to tell where it'll end up before I'm done. David Smith, County Commissioner, and Brent Saunders may be here shortly, but we want to tell you that the Gallia County Commissioners is totally behind the GDC. It's not for personal, well, it is for some personal reasons on my part, but I know when, especially with staff, you know, can you hear me? Okay. I'll just speak louder then. But anyway, you know, you hear people, you say, well, I know how you feel. I can't really say I know how you feel, but I'm going to tell you how I felt. My family were employees at GDC. My mother and my stepdad both. They went to work in 1965, I believe it was in January. And they had no warning or anything. And at that time, they turned their keys in and picked their keys up when they went to their different units to work. And the unit, or the relief people coming in on the next shift, came in and told them, you know, this is our last day. And my mother, she said, what do you mean? She said, well, they told us that we picked up our keys, this is our last day. So when my mother and my stepdad took their keys down and turned them in, that was the words that they got. That was their last day. They were being laid off. So I was a teenager, had a younger sister and a brother, and you know, that was our livelihood. And so I can't tell you, say how you felt, but I know how I felt back at that young age of my parents being laid off. Now, they were fortunate. After a while, I don't know, maybe a year, year and a half, they were able to get back to work, and they ended up retiring there. I had a brother, he worked at GDC, and I had a sister, she worked there. So my whole family has been connected to GDC. And GDC is connected with our entire county. It's been the lifeblood of Gallia County. You talk to about anyone here in the county, and they have worked at GDC or they have family at GDC, so it's a personal note with everyone here in our community. I guess we could just hold this up and just say, we agree with this. We can turn it over. It says, our town, our jobs, our GDC. You know, we're here in the Appalachia area. Maybe they don't think much of us down here, but you know, we feel pretty proud of ourselves. Our folks here want to work. We see a lot of places around they can't find employees to do the work. Well, that's not the case here in Gallia County. We have a lot of folks, and you folks wanting to work, and they're trying to take that away from you. I keep hearing a lot about the Olmsted. This act as being the reason that we're downsizing. I would rephrase that and call it the excuse. I don't think it's the reason. I think it's the excuse that is being used to downsize here. But there again, I just want to say we stand behind you, we stand with you, we support you. I've spent many conversations with Monty. He is totally consumed in defending you. We have been to the State House on different times speaking with legislators in regards to GDC. We've had phone conversations, we've written letters, and Ryan Smith, he's there every day, and he has been a trooper there. But you know, one man has got his hands full up there with.
My name's Mike Fox, and I'm the Vice President of the City Commission, and like Harold, my family goes back with GDC. My dad retired from there with 30-some years service, and I'll show my age too in my country, because I remember when they had the cottages up the holler, and had the big White House where you used to go pick your check up, and they had the farm. I mean, it was a city inside of a city, and it was self-sufficient, and there was plenty of residents there and employees, and they was talking about integrating them down into the community. We used to, I can't think of Jimmy's last name, but Jimmy the shoe shine boy is what I always called him. Jimmy always came down to the police department every Friday. And there toward the end, Jimmy got sick and had cancer. And a couple of the people who worked with him told us that there toward the end, last few weeks, he wouldn't get up, go out, do anything. But they said every Friday morning, when he knew he was coming to the police department, he would get up and get his stuff. He enjoyed getting out and coming down and just sitting around, and we hauled him around and showed him stuff. I mean, he enjoyed that to no end. But I mean, they do get out in the community, and I mean, we're a small community, and the people here take care of everyone, and they took care of them, and it's just a sad situation. Like Monty says, from 70 South, we do not exist. Never have, and they probably don't care if we ever do. But, you know, being from a small community in Appalachia, I mean, we're country people, and we're strong, and we'll stick to it, and if there's anything that we can do, we will do it. But like Gene and Tony and county commissioners said, we stand behind you 100%, and we'll stick with you all the way.
Well, Chris Maby's actually our president of OCSEA that represents all the state employees that work in the state. So Chris, turn it over to you.
Before I really get started, I want to ask a couple of questions here real quick. How many people in this crowd are employees of GDC? How many people in this crowd have families at GDC? Everybody in this crowd from this day forward and as in the past are families. And this is not just your fight for your family, it's our fight for as a family as a whole. A lot of times we have gatherings and we talk about issues and we try to stop things from happening. We've been down here to GDC in the past, and we won't walk away today. And a lot of times when we go away from the gatherings and we wonder what more can we do, that's what I'm here to tell you, what we can do together. How many people in this crowd have cell phones? Take out your cell phone, and I'm going to give you a number. And you don't have to call this number today. But much like myself, I'm going to call this number every day when I get out of bed for the next 30 days. The number is 614-466-3555. That's the number to the governor's office. And the more, how many people need me to repeat that?
How about writing it on a big sign?
I like that. 614-466-3555. And I will make you a promise that every morning I get out of bed in Cleveland, Ohio, and drive from Cleveland down to Columbus on my trip to go to work every day, and any other time I get on the road back and forth around the state of Ohio doing what we do as a union, I will call that number on a daily basis. And I ask everybody in this crowd to pass that number around to your family and your friends and on social media. And people call the governor's office once a day. I don't care if you get a voicemail, I don't care if you get a page, but the way the governor hears our voices is to ring that phone. It's not just the rallies that we do, it's just not the media contacts, it's not what we all do here today, it's what we do over the next 30 days that can stop bad things from happening. That's what I ask from everybody here in this crowd. Pass it around to your families. We will continue to fight for the employees, for the family members, and for Ohio's most vulnerable in the state. We will not let the governor's office or Columbus, Ohio forget the Gallipolis does exist in this state. That I will promise you.
Not last, I guess he did. I'm Margaret Evans, I'm your municipal judge, and I just wanted to say that a few years back I served on the GDC advisory board as a community rep. So I sat in on all of the meetings where they gave reports of what had been happening and what the residents have been doing. And I just want to say that we have a great bunch of people who work at GDC. The residents are safe. The people who work there have their best interest at heart. And I can tell you from hearing those reports that things are going well and have gone well at the GDC. And I just support every one of you, and hang in there. Thank you.
Even thanking me for fighting for it, but it's more than a job for me. This is my community. And it's very personal from that standpoint for me. And it's pretty simple. It's not about politics, it's about people. And last year in the budget, I heard more testimony from people all around this state, from family members that had loved ones in Montgomery and Youngstown that were being shut down. And it was the hardest testimony I've ever had to hear. And I've learned a lot about the Olmstead Act, more than I ever thought I'd know. But one thing that always sticks with me is I understand the integration part, and I believe in giving people options. But in my 5 years in the legislature, I have never been approached in Columbus or anywhere around this state by anybody that said, my loved one's trapped in a developmental center and I can't get them out. They're given options a lot of the times. And I believe in that, but I also believe that there is a segment of society that needs quality care 24/7, and that is why I will fight so hard for this institution and for all of them for that matter. We're talking about the most vulnerable among us. And I appreciate everybody's advocacy here, whether you're a staff or your family. Everybody making those calls and everything else helps. It lets them know that it's not just a few people down here that are upset with what's going on. It's a whole lot. So I don't honestly know where we're going with this and if I can change the direction or not. But I can tell you two things. One, if you ask me a question, I'll give you the truth, even if it's not good news. And two, as long as I'm there, I will continue to fight as hard as I can to maintain the quality care that you give the residents at this institution, because I've talked to enough people, not just here, but a lot of the DCs, the staff is their family. And it is so tough to hear that's changing in some of the other areas, and certainly seeing what's happened in ours. And I can assure you, this is not the end of the discussion. It's going to continue to go on. And at some point, I think they're going to realize that budget next year is going to be in my committee, and they might want to come talk to me about some of this stuff before we get down the path. So keep up the fight. Like I said, when we get knocked down, we got to keep getting back up, and continue to advocate for those that we must advocate for, and those that you love. And I will keep fighting for you in Columbus. Thank you.
I guess all good things have to come to an end. You know, thank all of you for coming out. This is personal. You know, I mean, I spent 31 years of my life working at that facility. I want every family member and every staff person to have that same opportunity that I have. And that's to live there, work there, provide good food for my family and my table, provide good care for the families who don't have families, and also to provide care for the families who do have families. But I'm as committed today as I was 34 years ago. I think I'm working on my 35th year now. But I'm as committed then as I am now. I will never let my voice be silenced. You should not let yours be silenced either, because you can make a difference. I can get up and talk, and I can get in front of Ryan's committee and give testimony, but there's no testimony that can be given like a family member or a staff person who takes care of that person at 1:20 in the morning when there's a crisis that happens with them. They don't understand that. It's awful easy to say that, you know, we're going to discontinue this care and you know, we're going to allow you to move on. No, they're not allowing you to move on. They're forcing you to move on. And one other thing that you'll hear in this state, no direct reflection on the director, John Martin. You know, John does have a kid that is severely disabled. His kid will never face the effects that families in our facilities like Gallipolis and Montgomery and Youngstown, his kid will never have to go through those things that you're going through now. I'm not running him down. I'm not cutting him down. But you can't, this administration cannot use that story to carry on and say, do you not understand that this director has a kid with developmental disabilities? That's fine. That's great. He'll never be. But his policy that is coming out from the director's office and the governor's office, I don't know how else to say it, but it sucks. You know, it's not about the families. It's not about the individuals. We have to keep up the fight. Chris gave you the number, and Chris had to look at his phone, but it's 1-614-466-3555, and I've dialed that number many times. I'll dial it at 7, I've dialed it at midnight, and I dial it till I can't get in no more to fill the voicemail box up. But it does make a difference, people. They do pay attention to that. So ring that phone, like Chris said, over the next 30 days. You know, contact them. Don't give up. This fight will continue to go on. We have to continue just as hard today, tomorrow, and the day after, because we can make a difference, and we will make a difference in making sure that our families has that facility as an option for their kids to live. Tell my Kevin. You want to say anything?
I just like to take a second and just have like a moment of silence, if we could, in honor of Kevin Jolly. We all worked with him for a number of years, and his loss, really hurt a lot of us. So, in honor of Kevin, just a moment of silence.
Thank everybody for coming. And if there's food still over there, we'll try to feed you up a little bit more before you.